Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Ellen Greenberg? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Ellen Ray Greenberg was born on June 23, 1983, in New York City. She was raised by her parents, Joshua and Sandra. Ellen earned a bachelor's degree in communications and a master's degree in education. She lived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and worked as a first-grade school teacher. Sometime around 2008, Ellen became engaged to a man named Samuel Goldberg, who went by the name Sam. They lived together in the Venice Lofts apartment complex located at 4601 Flat Rock Road in the Manayunk neighborhood in northwest Philadelphia. Their 1,100 square foot two-bedroom apartment was Unit 603. The couple was planning on getting married in Hershey, Pennsylvania on August 3, 2011, but this is a wedding that would never come to pass. Before moving to the timeline of the incident, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Aura. Have you ever searched for yourself on the internet and been shocked to see your personal information exposed on one of those public listing sites? It's pretty disconcerting to see all that information out there, and it can be overwhelming thinking about how to get rid of it. What's more, data brokers are making a fortune selling your information to spammers, robocallers, and others who want to learn more about you, like where you live. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Aura. Aura can identify data brokers by exposing your information and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Brokers are legally required to remove your information if you ask them to, but they can make it super hard to do. Let Aura handle it for you. You can try Aura free for 2 weeks using my link. Aura also does so much more to protect you and your family from online threats you can't see. It's really easy to set up. You don't have to download several different apps to get things like parental controls, antivirus, VPN, password management, identity theft insurance, and more. You get everything at one affordable price. Let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online so you can focus on other tasks with peace of mind. You can either let people continue to exploit and profit off your private information, or you can go to aura.com/Dr. Todd Grande to start your 2-week free trial. The link is also in the description for this video. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. On January 26, 2011, Ellen's fiancé, Sam, called 911 at 6:33 p.m. He said to the operator, quote, "Help, I need an ambulance now. I just walked into my apartment. My fiancé is on the floor with blood everywhere," unquote. After being directed to perform CPR, he told the operator there was a knife sticking out of Ellen's chest. The operator told Sam not to perform CPR and to wait for the police. When the police arrived, Sam told them that he left the apartment at about 4:45 p.m. to go to the gym in the apartment building. When he returned, sometime around 5:15 or 5:30 p.m., he unlocked the apartment door lock with his key, but the door didn't open because the swing bar lock had been engaged from the inside. Knowing that Ellen was in the apartment, Sam attempted to reach her by calling her and sending text messages and emails. He did this for about an hour, but there was no response. Eventually, he decided to break the door in. At this point, a security guard from the apartment complex was with him. Both men made entry into the apartment and discovered Ellen's body. Here is what the police found during the course of their investigation. Ellen's body was on the kitchen floor, just inside the front door of the apartment. Her head and part of her upper body were resting against the lower half of kitchen cabinets next to the oven. Her eyeglasses were on the floor next to her, and a white towel was in her left hand. There was a 5-inch steak knife in the left side of her chest, through her clothing. The knife had come from the kitchen. Ellen had been stabbed 20 times in total, 8 times in the chest, 1 time in the abdomen, 1 time in the scalp, and 10 times in the back of the neck. Many of the wounds did not penetrate far. There were no defensive wounds on her hands, wrists, or forearms. Ellen's cause of death was multiple stab wounds. The police examined the apartment. There was no sign of a struggle. Nothing appeared to be missing or disturbed. Several valuable items were in plain view, like cash and 3 laptop computers. The police inspected the front door and concluded it had been locked from the inside and forced open from the outside. The only other way to exit the apartment was through the sliding glass door for the balcony. It had been snowing that day, and there was snow on the balcony. It was completely undisturbed. Furthermore, the unit was on the 6th floor. Ellen's cell phone was found in the master bedroom. Her last outgoing phone call was at 2:33 p.m. that day. The last outgoing text message was sent at 2:47 p.m. She had missed several calls from Sam between 5:30 and 5:42 p.m. and calls from the apartment complex between 6:07 and 6:10 p.m. The content of the text and email messages to Ellen from Sam were consistent with Sam becoming increasingly frustrated as he stood outside, locked out of the apartment. He had written things like, "Open the door. What are you doing? I'm getting blanked. You better have an excuse. What the blank?" And "You have no idea." The police determined that Sam's story was consistent with surveillance video and key fob data. He had told them the truth. The police spoke to the neighbors. No one saw or heard anything unusual that day until Sam banged on the door. Initially, the police believed that someone had murdered Ellen, but not long after this, they came up with a different decision and concluded that Ellen was the one who used the knife. Now moving to my analysis. The decision to rule out homicide was extremely controversial and has even led to litigation. The police have been accused of conducting a poor investigation. Some experts believe that Ellen must have been murdered by a mysterious intruder. The police, of course, disagree. They argued that the evidence only leads to one conclusion: Ellen was responsible. This brings me to the question, was Ellen the victim of homicide? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that she was murdered, starting with the factors supporting this theory. Ellen was stabbed 20 times. 10 of those stab wounds were to the back of the neck. If Ellen was the one using the knife, this would have been a very unusual method to select. The neighborhood where Ellen lived, Manayunk, is not known for having a sterling safety record as far as criminal activity. There was no forced entry into Ellen's apartment, but she could have let the killer in. Maybe after the murder, the killer somehow engaged the swing bar lock on the way out by using a string or a shoelace to pull the bar closed as the door was closing. Ellen had a mark on the front of her neck, which may have been made by a fingernail. She also had several bruises on the right side of her neck. Perhaps someone had attempted to strangle her. Ellen did not leave any type of note behind indicating that she intended to carry out a self-destructive act. Now moving to the factors contradicting the theory that Ellen was the victim of homicide. The act of murder requires an assailant, but there was no evidence that an assailant was ever in Ellen's apartment. The front door was locked from the inside, and the snow on the balcony was undisturbed. Even if the assailant somehow jumped off the balcony without touching the snow, the apartment was on the 6th floor. The assailant would have made a final and fatal high-velocity, gravity-assisted impression upon landing. The weapon that was used to kill Ellen was a 5-inch steak knife from her own kitchen. Only her DNA was on this knife. Not long before Ellen died, she experienced a drastic change in her mood and developed mental health symptoms. She asked her parents if she could move to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where they lived. Ellen did not explain why, but she did indicate that she had no complaints about her fiancé, Sam. In order to address the symptoms, Ellen was treated 3 times by a mental health clinician. She was scheduled to see this clinician for a 4th time the day after she died. To help her cope with anxiety and insomnia, Ellen was prescribed the generic versions of Xanax, Klonopin, and Ambien. She told the clinician that she had severe anxiety, felt overwhelmed at work, and experienced a lot of pressure. The school district had changed some regulations that were causing Ellen concern, and she had problems with difficult students. Ellen did not know if she should continue to suffer with her job or quit. In the weeks leading up to her death, Ellen had made a number of searches on her computer involving methods a person could use to bring an end to their own life. She searched terms like depression, suffocation, and quick death. While it is true that no note was found in her apartment, only about 25% of people who caused their own death leave a note. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I think that Ellen Greenberg was the victim of homicide? No. Ellen was the only person in the apartment when she died. Even though the lethal method in this case was highly unusual, there is only one explanation for how it was applied. Ellen was the person who used the knife. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Not long before her death, Ellen was going through a tough time involving a lot of changes. She wasn't happy about how things were going at work. Some of her students were challenging, and Ellen was preparing for a wedding. There were a lot of different stressors acting on her, and she did not know how to cope with them. Her request to move to her parents' home in Harrisburg and her thoughts about leaving her job indicate that Ellen was looking for a way to escape. She just could not handle the pressure anymore. On the day she died, she was sent home early from work because of a snowstorm. While in her apartment, she had a feeling of being overwhelmed and made a lethal and impulsive decision. She left behind a perplexing scene and a murky motive, which makes her case full of both mystery and tragedy. Those are my thoughts on the case of Ellen Greenberg. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They consistently generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.